So it's just going to
Let's
be
see.
me
Oh
and you
yeah,
anyways.
we're up and running now. I want to say thanks to everybody that's here tonight. We got quite the crowd that's already here waiting for us to come on. Let me start off with some hellos before we get into our conversation because I'm notorious that once I get going, I s- I have a hard. That's one thing that I need to improve is the fact to be able to do the chat and do the conversation. The
That's
problem
hard.
is I get so distracted if I'm just looking at the chat that I don't get to listen, and I hate that because I like to be focused. But anyways, I want to say very thank you to Linda for being here with us. YFI, thank you, sir, for being here with us. Jeff Kane, always like always here and supporting us. Thank you very much for that. Fandom Aquatics, Alex, thank you so much for being here. Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fish, Dr. Awesome, thank you for being here. Let's see, we have Sam, Huawei. Why are we always yelling? Thank you for being here, sir. And let's see. We have Coral Aquatic Reef. Thank you, sir, for being here with us today. Laro, thank you very much. This is one of my fellow hobbyists here in our glorious city of Yuma, Arizona.
Nice.
It's kind of cool when you get to meet make connections here locally because then you can always, you know, link up with them and talk about fish instead of having to come on onto a screen and do that. And then this is a new name, Texas 2A. Thank you very much for being here. Um, let's see. I think this is the first time, at least that I've seen that name here on my chat, and I want to say welcome and hopefully you like what we're doing and you come back. Shamu Aquatics, thank you very much, sir, for being here. All right, well, let's get going because I want to
Hello,
make
everyone.
sure I know you're an extremely busy man,
I'm done for
and
tonight. So, but yeah.
but anyways, for those of you that are joining us today, I'd like to introduce you guys to Matt Gray. Um,
Hello.
he goes under the handle of Mentality Films on Instagram and on YouTube. You and your wife have a channel that's called the Fistroberts, right?
Yes, sir. Do you want me to talk more about that? Sorry. I just left you
Oh
hanging
no,
there.
it's because it froze the screen, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
that's I
yeah,
got the name right
fish
though, right?
troopers. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's
Okay.
something we started earlier this year. And we really had high hopes for that channel and intentions, and we have shot a ton of content for that channel, but things got so busy with our professional lives that it just had to be the bottom priority, and we couldn't like we haven't abandoned it, but it's just everyone else has to come first.
Well, yeah, and that's something we're going to get into. For those of you that are not familiar with Matt, Matt happens to be the editor for Senso
Tazawa
Tazawa
tanks.
tanks. What I always call them Senso, but it's Tazawa tanks. Um, uh, what is it? Girl talks fish.
Hmm.
That's Irene,
Irene.
right?
Yep.
And and then who else do you actually do stuff for Aquarium Co-op also, or
I
you
am
just do?
the editor for Aquarium Co-op. Yeah,
Oh,
this little
okay,
channel
so
called Aquarium Co-op. Uh,
yeah,
yes.
so you can understand why Matt might be a little bit busy. And
Well, sure. Yeah, and that's the fish world. It's not even technically my full-time job, although it is. But I have another full-time retainer gig that I do, and then I do freelance work when it is financially appropriate and it's the right thing. I also edit for at least one more YouTube channel that I can think of right now, a larger channel. But yeah, I stay very, very busy.
how do you find time to do your own thing? I mean, I
My own thing. I barely have time to to shower on a daily basis. It's tough, man. Yeah, there's no time to do my own thing, and my poor tanks outside of my office, they look terrible. I mean, water's clean, fish are fed, everyone's happy, but scape wise, everything's terrible. I accidentally left a light off for like 2 weeks and didn't even think about it, and all my val is dead. But It's just there's just no time, especially this year in particular, where I took on. I started with co-op earlier in the year when they had the need, and then we do weekly videos, sometimes much more, and also keeping Tazawa tanks going. And Irene, Girl Talks Fish, has another editor, so we get to kind of split that, share duties, and Irene is a little more loose about her release schedule. Well, everyone's been loose now because they're both just so busy. So we're all focused on things that are going on with co-op and just trying to do our best there.
Okay. You know what? I don't know if it's just on my end, but it seems like it's glitching a little bit.
Oh,
Um,
really? Am
yeah.
I freezing?
Yes.
Oh, I'm
But I don't
so
know if
sorry.
it's me or it's on your end. The chat, is it me that's glitching, or is it
No. Oh,
actually
the
on
rest of the chat.
yeah, or is it actually on Matt's end? Because if it's on my end, then I need to go turn off some devices.
I'm initiating that same thing on my side.
Okay, it's
Uh,
getting better now, but it was kind of cutting in and out for a little bit.
I'm sending out the word that my gaming and streaming children need to stop.
Oh no, they're gonna hate me for this.
Nah.
You'll be like, Dad, why'd you have to go on with that guy? We can't play games no more.
I know. I'm mean. Sorry, I pay for it, guys. Um, Hopefully we can clear things up. Sorry about that. It's probably on my end. My wife and I were actually testing our connections earlier, and she had the same problem. So I'm certain that's on me.
Oh, okay. No, he's not glitching on this end. Oh, okay, so it could be on mine. They said
Oh,
that
okay.
your end was good.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
good is relative, isn't it?
Yeah, especially coming from you.
I know, man. I can't believe I'm actually doing this in I can see this. The camera looks awful. This older laptop of mine. It's time to update, but I never have to go anywhere, so
Hmm.
I never use a laptop.
Yeah, your main priority is making sure the work you're working on is an excellent quality. That yours is just kind of like second priority.
Right, exactly.
So
Yeah.
when exactly did you come into, or who was it that you started working with first? Because I know the team you work with, they're all ambassadors, or actually not ambassadors, they're actually full-time employees for Aquarium Co-op. But how do you come into the picture?
Well, as far as getting into actual YouTube editing or anything like that, because I've been freelance. I've been in this you know professional world for over 20 years now, and in summer of 21, Irene needed an editor, and I happened to be about a year and a half into fish keeping again. I did a little bit of fish keeping when I was 19 and did everything that you shouldn't do. And then tank crashed and I moved on with life. But I really enjoyed it, which is a heck of a sidestep there. But so I'd been fish keeping for a year and a half and following Irene because I was getting good information from her, learning the hobby again. And when she's put out a thing that on YouTube, a community post that she needed an editor, I thought, oh, that'd be interesting because I had never actually taken somebody else's media and created something with it, significant, anyways. Um, so I decided I'll give it a try, and we had a conversation about it and tried it out, and she liked what I did, so I worked with Irene then for the next year ish. What does that put us to? Oh, okay. So I'm trying to think of this timeline in my head. What year is it now? I started working with Zenzo in early 2022 when he also needed an editor. So I had actually, my wife and I were doing a YouTube channel called Indie Eye Film Awards. We had
Mm.
started our own independent film festival. It was an online thing. We started up right after Rona and just decided, our passion for film and everything, we wanted to try to help up and coming filmmakers, give them any sort of critiques, notes, feedback, anything, because that's what young filmmakers, hungry filmmakers really want. So long story short, in one of our categories was documentary short, and we didn't have an entry for a particular month for that. And Zenzo had just put out a little video he had made about why he enjoys fish keeping, and it
Yes.
was really nice. And I reached, I DM'd Zenzo and didn't get a response. He's never on Instagram, still isn't. But didn't hear back from him. And then when he and Irene were both going to be at Aquashella in early 22, I just mentioned to Irene kind of off the cuff, hey, if you see Zenzo, tell him Matt Grace trying to put his video in a film festival. And so he ended up calling me shortly after that. And we just talked about what Indie Eye Film Awards was and what I do and things like that. Nothing about YouTube or anything like that for him, not editing or anything. But I did mention to him, hey, if you get to a point where you need an editor, I'd love to work with you. And shortly after that, he decided, I think his responsibilities right at that time with Co-op also ticked up quite a bit. And it's, as you run a YouTube channel, it's really hard to keep that going. So he was ready for an editor, and he put out a call to anybody to submit for being an editor. And we had already had a conversation about it, but he opened it up to everybody. And I don't know how many submissions came in or anything, but ultimately it was he and I working together. And I did everything on his channel from that point. I think he did one video on his own in 2022 at the end, because I was like, hey, I'm on vacation, end of the year. So if you don't have stuff to me by a certain time, then it's on you. And he's such a sport. But yeah, he did one video, but I had a chance to go out and shoot with him a bunch, go to San Francisco and film, and he came to Sacramento and filmed here. So we got to know each other a little bit better. And having a blast with both Tazawa Tanks and Girl Talks Fish. And then Co-op had a need earlier this year, and it was just a natural conversation at that point to, say, is this a right fit? And, let's see how it goes. And, so far it's going. So it's been like, for me, I could sit here and just fanboy about the whole thing. It's been an awesome experience. Everyone's great. And, for anybody who likes to watch Aquarium Co-op videos, I get to see them first.
Yeah. So that short documentary that Senso had done, did he film that, or did he actually hire somebody to film it? Because it was really good.
Yeah, that was all him. And he planned it out, did his voiceover, and took the time to edit it. So yeah, it was impressive for. There's people who can do videos. They have cameras. You can hit record. You can even open up, a software program and edit, quote unquote edit. You can put clips together with audio and stuff like that. That's all very hard. It's not everyone's natural instinct. It's a very difficult craft. And he, I'm not calling anybody
I'm
out.
guilty of that.
It's you cross a line from I can do this to doing it professionally and really understanding everything that goes on to it, because something like that, it's a wonderful video, but when I listen to things, I'm always listening to the audio and seeing what could have been done here and all of that. And so I'm always picking it apart, even the things that I do. So I'm never happy. But yeah, he did that all himself, and it's like one of the last things he shot by himself.
Well, I imagine. Well, you know what? Let me pause real quick, because my wife has got something that she wants me to look at, and she never interrupts unless it's important.
Okay.
Oh, okay. No, she's gonna send it to my phone.
Everyone's good. Everyone's okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'll find out right now, but I don't think it's that kind of emergency, because it would have been different. I'm looking at her demeanor, and it's not like, oh shoot, something happened. It's kind of like
bleeding.
Yeah. Okay, I can look at that later. No, sorry. Yeah, but I could understand what's because, like you said, that was right before I guess Senso announced that he had become a full time employee for the Aquarium Co-op. Now, assuming those responsibilities, the last thing you're going to have time is to sit down and try to edit anything. And I imagine that was the same case with Irene, as involved as she is with Aquarium Co-op and doing what she's doing on her end. That it becomes one of those things where like, yeah, I like to do content, but I got all this work because she does all the blogging, doesn't she, for Aquarium Co-op?
That's one of her many
Well,
responsibilities. Yeah. Yeah, everyone's got so many hats. And I'm not very much involved in like the behind the scenes of the day to day of everything. Like I communicate with those that I need to communicate with. But I can't even fathom, shout out to Fathom Aquatics. I can't even fathom uh everything that they're taking on, and how quickly they move and things change. Uh there's so much in motion. It's always exciting, but I imagine it's probably it's just as exhausting as all the editing that I'm doing, and they have bigger responsibilities to worry about.
yeah, I think it just comes to a point where there's not enough hours in the day to try to do
Right.
everything yourself. So it just
Right.
makes sense, to hire out that aspect of it, because it's just so time consuming. And I can speak for that because the very little editing that I do takes me a lot longer than somebody with expertise to be able to do it. What takes me 2 or 3 hours to try to kind of, and that's just to put a thumbnail,
Right.
a generic intro, and and an outro, and that's it. I don't. I always joke around about being a one take Jake, but it's not really a joke because it's really what I do. Um, I just don't have the patience. I've tried doing the transitional slides and trying to do the sound effects and the little cute clips. It's just I can't. I don't. It never gets done. I mean, I had a video that I was doing that way and I never finished it. I just got so frustrated because
Right.
you're trying to get the timing correct. You're trying to, sync it up with the audio, and it's just at that point it quits being fun, and I don't want to deal with it. You
Yes.
know, so
It is. I would, yes, and preach out there for those trying to do it. Bless you for taking the time, and for those just trying to make it happen. It is, like, to speak very frankly about it. You have to be a little mental, hence mentality films. You have to be unhealthy about it. I mean, there are people who can balance their lives really well. That's not going to be me. As soon as a camera touched my hand when I was 13, I realized I had no idea this was happening. It was like electricity. I looked through the viewfinder because it was a VHS camcorder, kids. Uh, and just something happened, and I realized this is what I want to do. Now I would detour from that completely for a long while, but um it's I knew what I wanted, and almost immediately we were making films. We were making movies and skits, and highly influenced by In Living Color, and doing very inappropriate skits, me and my friends. um but if you don't do that as a hardcore passion, I believe from an early age, if you're not trying, assuming you have the tools to be able to do that, it's not the game for you, because you do find yourself spending so many hours that you should be spending living your life. And there's almost like an unhealthy balance that happens when you're a filmmaker, or it, because people think about YouTube editors. Oh, you just edit YouTube, and there's a lot of just YouTube editors out there, but I've been doing this, independently, amateurishly, professionally for so long. This is all I know how to do. And that's why, I was up at 3 a.m. today trying to get work done. And thankfully, thankfully, I'm not going to touch anything when we're done talking, but I've got some serious, about 4 days ahead of me until I can take a break. And I just had a conversation earlier today with another channel that I'm working for, and they have a couple of people involved in the process who this is not their specialty. And they're
mm,
charged with going out there and capturing great footage and then editing that footage. and it's not what they do. It's not in their heart. And if it's not something you just do instinctually, like everyone can learn to get better, but if you don't wake up and think about it, I think anyways, it's just going to be a nightmare to do. And you want to give up. It's hard. It takes forever.
Now, oh, I wanted to ask because you were talking about being young with a camera and all that, and immediately what came to mind was Super 8. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's what I envision you as with a camera and your friends running around trying to do your own little mini film or short film.
That's
Speaking of
that's
which,
yeah.
you do have a full length feature on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, it is on Amazon Prime. It is a no budget feature length film. So, it's not going to match the quality of your latest blockbuster by any means. Um, but it is a film that fortunately I was able to do with some amazing people. I wrote it, line produced it, directed it, shot it, did the sound for it. The only thing I didn't do for it was was particular parts of the score that a friend of mine and his bandmates did for me and recorded for me. But yeah, I did that mostly to go through the process from A to Z of sitting down, writing a film, making it happen through production, and then going through post production with all of the things I needed to do, and then releasing it. And the release got messed up because it was supposed to release um, the spring of 2020
Okay.
in release, not like in your Regal theaters, but we had a festival run planned, and we were gonna. The thing I was looking forward to the most is just having a private screening here at a theater with the cast and crew and their family so that they could sit back and see what we did. And because of COVID, we didn't get to do any of that. And I kind of chucked the movie aside during all of that because I was pretty pissed that we'd put in all this work. This movie was actually about a almost 4 year process. We didn't film until the very end, but the girls that star in it started being these characters, uh, years prior, and they were
Mm.
cast years prior. I'd known them, and thankfully we waited to film until they were 15, 16, 17 years old, because the rigorous production we went through, they just wouldn't have been able to do it when they were younger. It was hard enough for them when we did shoot it. Um, but since COVID happened and we couldn't go through the regular process of putting a film through film festivals, which couldn't be open, and theaters weren't available, it was really disheartening. So at the end of 2020, I was contacted by a specific film festival that I was involved with before, and they said, "We want your movie. We know it's out there. When are you going to give it to us?" So I rushed the end and got it out. Did a little bit with it through film festivals, but the heart for me at that point, I was way beyond it. I was doing other things, and the movie was the movie. And thankfully we got it on Amazon Prime so that anybody who wanted to see it could see it. Now, if you choose to go see, Madison Baker was here. If you choose to, I think I just reduced the price this year at some point, but you
It's
can rent it for
199.
like 99 cents or
Yeah,
199.
yeah, something like
Uh,
that. It's not expensive.
I cannot give you that time back. I can't give you that 80 something minutes back in your life. But if you do happen to check it out, uh, please keep in mind the girls who star in this film are super special to me. They gave up so much to make this project. And I think they are the stars of the show with it. And through all the challenges we had making it, um, they really made me super proud. And I'm so glad I went through the process because I learned so much through it.
Well, talking about that, what was it like to cast? I mean, what's that process like? Because I'm assuming you're having to go through several people that are auditioning for this. What are the things that you were looking for to kind of go, this is the character, this is going to be so and so character, or did you just pick a group of girls and then eventually let them work it out, or how was that?
Okay, so great question. And outside in aquatics, I do see your question about favorite director. That's an unfair question. There's so many answers, but but remind me about that question so I can come back and touch on that. But casting. So how do I go back? So in 2012, I was hired by a local private school to just film their spring musical. It was
Okay.
basically a, a middle school, and it was right down the street from me. And in 2012, I'm making nothing, and we're struggling, and it's just a rough time period. So we'll take it. We'll pretty much take anything. It's that period of a videographer's career. We'll do anything. Uh, but me being me, I don't just want to set up my camera and shoot a play. And like the plan at the time was shoot the play. The school was going to pay me a little bit, and then I sell the DVDs to parents. DVDs, kids, are circular forms of media that we used to put in a machine and hit play on. Um, so it was an opportunity to make some money. And like part of the area I grew up in, I made my bones making sports documentaries, football, things like that. And my target demographic was the parents of the kids, because everybody wants. If your kid's in something, people want to buy it. So that was my business plan. Uh, so working with this school and working with their drama class club situation, I was introduced to, the young talent that was there. I think it was kind of a mandatory thing. You didn't have to, but, so plenty of kids are just doing it because that's kind of what they think they should do. But then there are other kids involved, like you could tell this is their thing. They love this stuff. They love to act, love to be on stage. And after my second year there, uh, just a couple of individuals really stood out in how they were approaching and being young, and I think JC Shopper, who is in Madison Baker, was here. Obviously, that's we're talking about the cast. I think she was 11 when she played Dorothy in Wizard of Oz.
Mm.
Uh, and, and honestly, I've told her this, so this is no secret. When I heard that an 11-year-old was going to be Dorothy in this play, and they had like older kids available to be parts, but I was like, this kid's going to be a main character. This is going to go terrible. So this is going to be awful. And this kid knew every line, could sing every song, was just amazing. There was one performance one night where the the sound quality of their productions in this private school were awful. Nobody knew what they were doing, and the equipment was bad. So there was often feedback and things like that. But the entire sound thing went out, and her whole family was there for her to sing and everything, and so everything had gone terribly, and she stuck through it the whole time, singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and just knocked it out of the park. And I remember sitting there watching in my viewfinder, keeping the camera on her, because I'm kind of honestly, I'm waiting for her to crack and like cry or something, and I'm thinking this is all a big mess. I'm not selling DVDs for this. This is terrible. And she went through it all, and I was just so blown away. So um later in that year, I had written a short film for my sons to star in at our house. We had this really weird looking tree house that was the people who had the house before us had put up. It wasn't weird. I mean, it was nice, but it looked kind of scary, it looked creepy. And I had written a short film for my sons, who are brothers. Obviously, that was stupid. Um, they were going to be in this film, but when I saw her, I was like, oh, it would be really cool if like my older son and her had this brother sister dynamic. And I changed the script so that we could do that, and reached out to her family, and we went forward, made that short film, had that experience with her. Another girl who's in young lady who's in Madison Baker was here, Izzy Weaver. She was also in that short film. She was also with that school's drama club. And then actually all four girls who star, everybody who's all females involved in Madison Baker was here. came out of that school. I met them through that way. To try to shorten this up, I'm sorry. But I did have experience with them at the school. You know, I knew them. And what I would do for the school is, yeah, we would film the musicals and whatever, but every year I did it behind the scenes. And that's really where I shine, you know, telling the story about putting it together, the parents who are making props and the director and the everything coming together. So people would buy the DVDs and everything, you know, the play is there, but then you get the behind the scenes. You get to see your kid, you know, you're probably at work, you're not seeing the kid at rehearsal. You get to see that process. And I would sit them down and mic them up and they would tell me the, you know, stuff about what was going on. So I did like a whole big thing. And these kids were just constantly helping and coming across amazing and just wonderful actors. So I had decided after doing the short film that I was never going to work with young kids again. Not that I have anything against young kids, but it's really hard directing. You know, she was 11, my son was I want to say 14 at the time, and uh, it's challenging. You can only work with them so long before they're completely, you know, done with you. I was like, you know, it was a fun experiment. But then JC had asked, you know, what are we gonna do next? And I thought, next, nothing. But good luck with your life. And then I think before the time I got home from them, I had this whole concept of what the film would be and knew which girls would fit really well and what the characters would be. So I went back and we ended up talking about, you know, are you really serious about making a film? Because I think we could do that. And then I talked with, you know, I got all the parents together and it said, this is not, I don't think what I'm writing is not a short film. It's a full length feature film because I believe, and not because of my writing, but because of the way the girls are and how they perform, that these characters are really fun and interesting and the things that I want them to represent and tell through the story just require more than, you know, a 10-minute film. And everyone was on board to make it a feature film, which was awesome. But it took me about 3 years to finally get the screenplay finished. And thankfully they were ready at that time. It would have been the last time we even would have had a chance to do it. Not only did we shot in the summer of 2019, like our last shoot was, I think, our last shoot together, our last scene together, other than them coming in for ADR and things like that, was September 1st, 2019. And, you know, I think I went to JC's house in February of 2020, right before the lockdowns happened, and got some ADR from her, which is automated dialogue recording, where if I need her to say a line again and it didn't catch well, I went to her house to capture that real quick so I can run back home and put it in the edit. Um, and after that, you know, the world shut down, and we just wouldn't have been able to do the same thing. So we really had a wonderful opportunity. There was a long answer to how did you cast for
No,
your
no, no,
movie?
no, no. That's
Sorry.
you know, I love it because I find all this stuff fascinating. I'm not in that world, but I do enjoy movies. And anytime I watch the you know the behind the scenes or where there's a on YouTube and it's like the round table where they bring in actors and they'll talk about, and I think it's put on either by one of the magazines. I don't know if it's Vogue or GQ or whatever, but they bring
Oh,
in
I
all
know what you're talking
these
about.
yeah, and they get to talk about what's going on, about the story, about so I'm a sucker for all of that. I love all that stuff. And you know, not that I'm going to go out there and try to film something. I don't know. I find all that stuff very interesting. So that was really one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is because I finally get to ask the questions to somebody that's, you know, directed. And instead of hearing it secondhand from an interview. Well, you know, you know, roll your eyes or whatever, but none of us here, none of us here can say that we've you know, filmed an entire movie and have it
Right. Yeah.
streaming on a streaming service. So,
It's
but you know, that was one of the things. Now, the other thing that I'm very interested in is where does the story come from? Where is that story born that you decide this is my movie?
well, initially, my thought was, what kind of fun could we have if, you know, this particular character and this particular, these two, even just them as actors, just the girls as personalities, and specifically speaking on J.C. Shopper and Izzy Weaver, who were the ones I initially worked with. They're so much fun. They're so talented, and Izzy is just one of the best human beings I've ever met on the planet. And I thought it would be really fun if we could just do whatever, because I thought they sneak out, alcohol gets involved. What would Izzy do with that as a character? Or yeah, and so I thought that was fun, and I'm very much influenced by John Hughes, and I think that's the actual answer to the question. Although
Hmm.
there's a lot of directors that I love, but I think John Hughes impacted me the most. And so there's this movie I kind of pitch as it's what is it? It's Stand by Me, but with girls. If somebody who is a big John Hughes fan directed it, and that was kind of my the way in for that film. Um, and so in writing, it can't just be jokes and having fun. There has to be a purpose. In writing, I discovered, and if you're, I do this anyways. I won't say if you're a writer. So I don't know what I am, but I always go by um, these thoughts. What is it about? What is it also about? And what is it really about? And if you can answer those three questions in your screenplay, then you really understand what you're trying to do. And I think on the surface, this film is about friendship. Uh, what it's really about uh, is loss. Well, it's about friendship. It's about um, dealing with people leaving, but it's really about loss, a loss of many things,
Mhm.
important things, and that gets into it throughout the night while the girls are out. You kind of realize, or you're given reasons of what these girls have lost, what they're facing losing, because the premise of the film is that Madison Baker, played by the amazing Madeline Lingle, she is leaving. She's moving away, and this is her last night in town. And so her friends convince her to sneak out for their last hurrah. Her plane leaves in the morning, and she eventually, spoiler alert, she eventually spills that she's had a crush on a boy at the school, and she um, is really regretful that she never told him, that she didn't do the things she wanted to while she was there. She feels like nobody knows who she is. So they convince her, you need to go to his house right now and tell him how you feel before you leave town. And that's the premise of the film. And anything beyond that is pretty spoilerific. But it's about the friends might be breaking up. It's about friendship. How many times can I say that? But it comes from there's a core of four girls there. It comes from me growing up with a core group of four friends, and one of which passed away like 2 months before we started filming. So that was tough. But it was really about our friendship. Now it's not analogous to each of us as individuals. These are completely different characters for the most part. Although Cassie Gordon in the film, who is played by J.C. Shopper, is an absolute representation of me. So the one in the Stones T-shirt is every time she's speaking, I'm basically writing for myself, and nothing else is similar to what my friends and I were like or did. Uh, but the story Cassie tells in the middle of the film is what happened in my life. And if you want to go watch the movie, go watch the movie. I'm not going to let anything else go. But that is something that I experienced. So it was therapeutic and very cathartic to write it. I had to get in a special place to write the particular scene in which this character, you know, spews this entire exposition, which is a no-no. Never write that much exposition, people. Uh, but so I don't know. Did that answer your question?
No, no,
I
no.
know you went
Yes.
all deep
As a matter
into
of
the
fact,
film
that was
now.
you answered that. The follow up question to that was, were you drawing from personal experience? So you just totally answered that right now.
Well, not from
So
being a teenage girl, but
no,
definitely
no, no,
from
no,
my
no, no. But you
experiences.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Stuff. Sometimes we'll take stuff, incidents in our life, past life that have happened, that have marked us for some reason or another, and you go, you know what, that could fit in here. That's
Mhm.
that's. But yeah,
Right. Good to
apparently
know.
you just answered that by saying that the dialogue that takes place is something that you actually experience. So, and I think for most screenwriters, that's got to be a commonality that they got to draw from somewhere.
Right.
Why not draw from some personal experience?
Right.
And so that that was really neat. Now, the one I think I want to go back to is where you were saying about answering the three questions. What is it? What is it about? And now, do you find yourself using that to do your videos and your editing when you go out and film, or is that totally um the like, for example, Senso, and he tells you we're doing this and you just filming, or do you have a participation and say that, you know what, I think we should do it this way?
I think it's embedded in my filmmaking DNA in whatever I touch. Those questions, structure, be it a 3-act structure or 5-act structure, I'm very much invested into what those things are and why good stories are good stories. And I do try to apply anything I might know about filmmaking into every single edit that I do, even if it's just a short. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. You're
Mm,
trying to hook somebody, you're trying to end it a specific way. So everything I do is with that. And even if you watch Corey's fish room videos, I try to, these things are very subtle, but if like music, I'll select music to use, but I'm going to use parts of that or stems of that, tracks of that, uh, here and there where it feels appropriate. And I might try to end with that same sentiment, just to match the beginning. So there's a very simple way that I might apply it to just, something that's wildly out of my control. If there's an opportunity for callbacks of anything, I'll try to touch on that and just use those basic filmmaking or editing techniques. Now, when I go out in the wild and I'm shooting out there, the intention, I'm always editing in my head as I go, uh, which is, it's just something that kind of, I'm sure it's common for people who do what I do, but that's something I developed while doing football, and having run up and down sidelines to tell, to make documentary series about football. I'm in my head thinking, okay, this happened. Where do I go? Where should I put the camera here? This guy just scored a touchdown. Follow him over here. Get the celebration. Flip over to get the scoreboard changing, and get the extra point. Then go back, get a shot of him. Sitting or having a blow or taking a drink, and so I can come back to that in the edit and put that together in a way that makes sense. Going out with, for example, if anybody has seen this recent vlog video that Zenzo and I did, where we hit all of these places in a
yes.
couple of days, uh, I'm way more in that than I wanted to be, but that's just kind of how this thing worked out. Because I had a GoPro in my head the whole time, and he was filming, and we knew we could make a video out of this monster shoot we were having that week.
So,
Um,
before you go a little bit
oh
more,
yeah,
so
yes sir.
how many cameras are you running? Because obviously you said you had a GoPro, and I know you were having a handheld. Usually for a video, for any time you're recording any content, are you running multiple cameras?
I can be. Like for example, in a situation where I'm filming with Zenzo, I will rock a GoPro. Or actually, this last time it was a DJI Osmo 4 Action 4. I think that's my new head camera. This is a technique I actually stole from, or I was inspired by Darius Britt on YouTube. He hasn't done a whole lot lately, but D Britt, shout out to him. He would wear a GoPro on his chest or on his head, everywhere, so that he could shoot his short films, but have behind the scenes content for the whole thing, which
Mhm.
I did for the entirety of Madison Baker also. So I have miles of footage of behind the scenes stuff for that, but I have no time to go back in and make anything out of it. But normally I'm gonna have the one camera if I'm out filming with, somebody like that, because one, it kind of covers my bases. It's not a camera I want to go to if I don't have to. I'll stay away from it unless it makes super sense in the edit, or he's specifically referencing me and I'm just kind of calling attention to the fact that I'm also here filming Zenzo, that kind of thing. And then just one camera, ideally. If I'm going to go out to a corporate shoot, or I need to get talking head stuff, I might, do two cameras and have different focal lengths for different shots, depending on, it all depends on what I'm trying to capture. But normally just the one camera, run and gun with one camera, and an audio setup, and something on my head. So I know it kind of counts as a wide shot. It's there if I do a double tap, and if anybody knows what a double tap is on a camera, it's when you hit record, but you hit record again and you don't realize you've hit record again, so you're not recording anymore, and you miss a whole thing. I don't do that much anymore. Um, but there was plenty of that back in my old wedding days, and there's nothing worse than realizing you didn't get that shot. And every clip seems to be your feet walking around rather than the in between when you were trying to actually shoot things that happen. Uh, so it's I'm super paranoid when I go out and shoot. So I'm like backed up with audio, with video, so that if the worst thing happens in the edit, I can still make something out of it.
Yeah, because I remember seeing that video. You had multiple bags, so I'm assuming you're bringing multiple cameras. Obviously, you have your favorite camera that you shoot a lot of your footage with, but you've got a backup camera in case something happens that you got to resort to something else, or you're just 100% sure that the one you got is the only one you have.
Well, most times, if it's professional, if it's critical, I don't know if I would always take a second camera if, um, like, to be honest, if I'm out shooting with Zenzo, if I'm in the area in Sacramento and shooting with Zenzo, probably not taking a second camera. I might. I'm pretty confident in the camera that I use, and the camera that I use has dual SD card slots, and I'm constantly recording on both cards. That's more of a concern, a card failing, than my camera failing.
Okay.
So I try to stay backed up on that. Audio is always backed up. I wear a little kind of a tactical thing on my chest where an audio recorder sits, and I'm transmitting, wireless audio to this recorder, but also the transmitter on the body on the subject is recording, and I'm generally have a shotgun mic on, so I've got audio there too. And if worse comes to worse, I've like the action cam is running, and you can get audio from that as well. So I'm just, super want to make sure that I have all, especially with audio. Like, I'm a video guy, I'm a cinematographer guy, but more into the professional world, I'm way more concerned about sound, and I'm more
Hmm.
interested in sound when it comes to the edit, to a detriment of my own time. Because if you guys watch Aquarium Co-op or Tazawa Tanks, or videos that I edit for Girl Talks Fish, not so much Irene, because she provides a lot of the media, for me, but I do sound design to make myself happy. And I sit here at this, if you've seen on Instagram my desk here, I've got the monitors set up and everything. I like to entertain myself in the edit. So I would always recommend listening with good headphones, because if you watch on your phone, you're going to miss like 50% of the edit that I've done. There's always some sort of subtle sound design going on underneath all this stuff. So sometimes I may not take a second camera, but I may have a second field recorder or an additional microphone and record natural sound in the area. Like, we were just at a koi farm, and when I was done shooting, I actually went back to that koi farm. Shout out to Koi Enterprise in West
Hmm.
Sacramento. Uh, I went out there, shot with Zenzo, went back twice for 2 days and shot more B roll, and also captured natural sound in the area, that I knew I was going to need in the mix of the audio of the video that will eventually be coming out. And so I'm more concerned about capturing good audio than what happens with the camera. especially for
Yeah.
YouTube.
Well, and I know Alex had asked a question regarding was it you that had filmed the one video where Corey goes out and puts that aerator in the middle of the pond. I thought
Oh,
that video was
yeah, no, and I'm sorry if anyone's asking anything. I'm like not paying attention to the chat because I'm thinking. So I'm sorry if I've missed anything. But hello, anybody who's here with us and hanging out. Thanks for being here. No, I don't film. I haven't filmed with Corey. He does. He's actually, you know, he's pretty good at getting me really good stuff. He's got good ideas. He knows. I mean, he's been doing this a long time, so there's no surprise here. Uh, but he really tries to up his game and experiment with different things. But I was so glad he had the forethought to I think he set his phone down to record that wide shot of the pond. In this video, Corey is going out and taking a giant air diffuser out into the middle of his pond, his cold pond. Uh,
yeah.
and he had that master wide shot, which was a lifesaver for me because I got to use that and show, you know, reference to what's going on, where he is, how far out he is. He's also wearing an action camera. But unfortunately for that video, it was oriented. It started recording in the wrong orientation. So in that video, I kind of have to. It's kind of cropped and weird, and then behind that video is like the other shot, but dimmer. The opacity is lowered. But it gave me stuff to work with going back and forth from where he was. Initially, when I went into that edit, and here's some really nerdy stuff, guys. I went into that edit thinking, oh, once we get to that part, I'll just, chop, chop, chop. He gets in, gets out, and we're done. Because that would make my life really, really easy. Um, and when I started into the edit and Corey hits that water and he like gets a little bit deeper and you can hear his breath start to change because it's super cold. The edit will tell you what it needs, and I'm always a slave to that. You can go out and try to shoot whatever you get and try to have a plan, and that's the way you should absolutely do it. But the edit will always tell you what works, what the story really is. Um, so I knew at that point, oh my gosh, and like I was going to go to bed. I was an hour from going to bed, but once I hit that point, like here's what this needs. And so I went and got the right music for it and started making this intricate connection of all the clips. So no, to answer the question, I didn't shoot it, but I did edit it.
Mhm.
And Corey gets a lot of credit for doing what he does really well as a one man show right now. I get a lot of good stuff to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially because you guys are not in the same state either, so it kind of you would have to be traveling quite a bit if you wanted to go out there and
Yeah.
film that stuff. So, you are in California, correct?
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay.
just outside Sacramento.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
I don't want some like people keeping privacy, but at least I wanted to
Yeah.
find out what state you were in, and
Yeah. Well,
so, but I kind of
Zenzo and
figured
I
just
are
because of the videos that
yeah,
you're
Zenzo and
in
I
the
are like
northern
2 hours
region of
apart.
California.
Yeah.
Sorry, I stepped all
Uh,
over you.
oh no, I was just saying that Zenzo and I he's in San Francisco and I'm in Sacramento, so we're only about 2 hours apart, on a good day with traffic. Uh so that does help because now a handful of times we've gone out together and been able to capture a lot of content. And part of that, and you kind of see in that Zenzo vlog, in that vlog video that we did where we shot all the YouTube videos. Hey, look, go watch that video if you haven't seen that video, please. We had like 4,000 views. What's wrong with YouTube? What's going on here? I worked really hard on that, but that kind of thing that's planned in advance. And how something like that comes about is we were given a specific prompt to capture things at a couple of these stores, and then I was learning about Koi Enterprise from Hawaiian Fishkeeper, and he's a fish tuber in the Sacramento area. Just a great guy, Mel. Um, so I was asking, are we interested in going to see that? Can that be a thing? And it could. Um, so I reached out to all of the businesses and coordinated the schedules, and worked with Zenzo. And when he was able to come down, put everything together, timed it all out so that it made our path made sense of going from one location to another, and each location had its kind of a shot list, not really a shot list, but we're going to do this and this, and we do not waste time. And that's where I'm very thankful I've had so many years of being a director, uh that we can get on to a location and I can get us through it. And part of that is also, working with somebody like Zenzo who's game for it. He's no diva, and he knows he's shot some stuff himself. He knows it's game time. We're going to work, and he got through it. Actually, uh, behind the scenes, that shoot wasn't done entirely with Zenzo on a bad foot. The poor guy had injured his foot. Uh, we almost didn't. We almost had to call off the shoot because he could barely walk. And if you see how much I'm dragging him through these places where he's running around, this poor guy, and I don't think you could tell at all on screen. And I know he was uncomfortable at the end of the days, and it was a lot of work for him. To drive, to use your foot for the gas and the brake, and then walk around all day. Uh, I mean, he's fine. He's okay now, but it was just so close to an injury, that he was just a champ getting through that. But yeah, it's that pre-planning lets you go out there and get 13 videos shot. And I'm cheating a little because 13 videos does include a bunch of shorts that we did. But we did videos for Tazawa Tanks. We did videos for Aquarium Co-op. Um, and some of those haven't been seen yet, but they will be seen shortly after the new year.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually, you mentioned Mel. I had reached out to him in August because I have family in Oakley, which is just right next door to Antioch. And I had reached out to him because I wanted to see if he was available to do a collab, and he actually agreed. But it's just did not end up going up there because some other stuff happened. But I was just talking to my wife, and I said I think now I'm driving my parents up there because they're his cousins, all from my grandfather's side that are up there, and so he wants to go visit them. His eyesight is not as good as it was, and he's got some other health issues. So he asked me if I could drive him up there. So we didn't go because it was too hot, and they didn't really have AC up there. So, and it was during that heat wave that you guys were experiencing down there, and it's just the timing was really bad. And so now I was just, as a matter of fact, maybe a couple of hours ago, tell my wife I need to talk to my dad now that the weather is nicer. Either go up there towards the end of January, beginning of February, but so I want to go up there. Hopefully Mal's available and we could do something. I do want to go check out that J&J Aquatics, I think it's called, the one
JJ Aquarium.
Yeah. I want to go see that store. And then the one, the Reptile Depot, or what is the Aquarium Depot, the one that you guys go to in Sacramento?
Aquarium and Reptile Depot. Yep, it's in the Sacramento area. Technically, it's Citrus Heights. Amazing store, wonderful owners. We have a couple of really great stores in this area, but I think Aquarium Depot is the big draw. That's the one that gets, I think, the most exposure from them all. But yeah, Mel is just an awesome dude and a hustler. That dude puts out so much content, and he's fun. I've never just admired somebody for their hustle so much as Mel. Hey, thanks, Fathom Aquatics. I saw your edit there. The edit makes you legitimately concerned when he is in the water, and we were talking about Corey, and yeah, it does. And then there's a celebration there because Corey, and that's Corey selling it. Like it's not so much me. I'm just trying to convey what Corey's experiencing. And I mean, Corey had no choice. That water was pretty cold, but what a great job he did.
But he committed and he did it.
Experience. Yeah.
So going back, I guess for all of us that are doing content and stuff like that, there's a big learning curve that takes place. You start going from taking whatever recording device you have and you start doing that. But what are some of the not so expensive things that people can do to try to improve their recording qualities, that some tips that you might have that um, we can take advantage of that don't necessarily um, require very large investment, but it does. You can step up your game just a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is sound.
Okay.
I think everyone leans to, oh, what camera should I get? And honestly, and I'm a gearhead. I've been through the whole spectrum of I've got to have the latest gear and do this and that. And now I'm old and experienced enough to know it really doesn't matter what I use. It's all the technique. So I would first make sure your sound is on point. I mean, hey, happy birthday! You just got a new mic for your live streams, and
Thank you.
just something like that as a live streamer, care about your audio, uh, because I, I, I think of it this way: if you have good audio, you're respecting your audience. You are English is hard. You're respecting their experience with your content, and if the audio's bad, and I'm not talking like feedback or anything like that, you have to edit audio. You don't have to, but audio should be edited as video is edited. There's post production that goes into audio. We're talking loudness normalization and compression and getting things out at the right level to be a standard on the internet, and doing sound design, things like that. I mean, sound design is a whole other thing. If you're talking about what your fish tanks are, to talk about our fish world, it doesn't need to be super Hollywood or anything, but just make sure that it's clear. Uh, if you're using, like, the best thing right now, and budget is relative, and I'm sorry, but um, man, this gets into so many tough things, because I would tell people right now, if you have the budget, get yourself a Rode wireless, get the Rode Pro wireless system, record on the transmitter in 32-bit float, but use a lav, use a Rode Smart Lav or whatever lav, and capture that clean audio properly. And then understand that it still needs to be loudness normalized and compressed. Now, not everyone's going to do that, and you might not understand why that makes a difference. Um, but I think if you listen to channels that I work on, if you listen to their audio today, it's very, very different. I'm talking about all channels. I'm not calling anybody out. It, uh, their audio today is very different than what it used to be before I was editing for, Irene. Or Irene's actually pretty good, but like Zenzo's audio, that was my big pet peeve with his channel prior to working with him. I was like, in his fish room is set up for great audio, and he on his own he captures perfectly fine audio. They designed that fish room. Co-op did, Dean and Corey. They designed it so that it was super clean. But there's an extra step. If you're just recording into your device and then putting it on your timeline and exporting, you're missing part of the work. And that's, where a good editor comes in, because we'll take the time, we know what to do, blah, 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 and it comes out. And maybe you don't notice really. But if you play older stuff versus newer stuff, you can go, wow, Corey in the fish room now is very even across the spectrum. You're not struggling to hear Corey, and things are very clean, is the best way I can put it. So, but I think I'm trying to answer your question by saying, make sure you have a microphone, and you don't need
Okay.
expensive microphones at all. There I don't even know if it's still available, but there was like a $25 Rode shotgun knockoff, like I think it was Tac Star. But it
I
was
have one that's called mobile. It's a
okay.
knockout. Even the colors and everything are exactly like a
Yeah.
road,
Well, I mean,
and it's a dual,
oh, did it have the
both
front
sides.
and back?
It's got,
Okay,
yeah,
see,
front and back.
that's another trick though, because when you record on a mic like that, you're not done. Corey
Oh, okay.
records a lot of the times on a mic like that. I think he has a deity, and it's recording front and back, and so then I have to go in and select from what that recording is. I have to go into that channel. Oh, yeah, exactly. And those are really cool because the channels are split. So if you record on that, yeah, that's cool. That's just like the deity. If you
Yeah, and it
record on
wasn't
that,
very expensive, like you said.
Right. Yeah. And this is such a wonderful time to be in this game because you could really do it for cheap and edit for free on your phone, and it's just amazing. So, I come from being in this a little longer, having gear and blah blah blah. But I would love to be a kid starting out today and doing this kind of stuff. But when you record on a device like that, you're getting, one side is going to be on the left side and the other side is going to be on the right side, and you get that into post, that's uneven, and that's an uneven listen. Now, most people, they're not going to care, but I go in and separate those channels, select which one is the better one for the particular situation, and then I work on that audio and make it what it needs to be so that everything in the end seems very seamless. I want people who experience videos that I edit, I want it to be a very seamless and easy thing, because when I click on YouTube videos, if the audio is bad, and that's probably means more to me than most people, I have to click off because I have to listen to audio all day long, and if it's not nice and clean, I don't want to listen to it. In fact, you talked about uh, Bob Steenfod a little earlier, and his live stream kind of set up his mics and what he's using there. I sent him because I wanted to listen to Bob's live stream so bad that I wanted those mics for me, and I'm like, dude, these aren't even for you; they're for me because I want to be able to. He added Chelsea to the live streams, which now makes the live stream so much better. I sent her a mic. I'm like, you guys got to use these, and Bob's been a sport about it. Um, so it's just I really want to. I try to support channels a lot, especially if I really like them. I've contributed in that way before. I don't make it as public, but something like that. I care about the audio so much. I sent Bob the mics and a couple of pieces of equipment to use so that I could have a better experience when I was listening to the live stream.
Yeah.
So cheap
Yeah. And
mics, buy cheap mics, and make good
yeah,
audio.
this is why I said it looks like the road, because it's got the little the
The red,
and
yep,
what's kind of neat on this, and it's a little feature that it has on there. Like if you have your cell phone, you could select for the cell phone or a camera, and then it's got the front or rear. So it's actually, for what you're paying, it's really a step up on versus the default setting on your phone. So just a
absolutely.
little
Oh,
investment like that
absolutely.
makes a big difference.
You're absolutely right. Yep.
And then it'll also drown out a lot of the background noise that um that I found, at least with this one, that you could always hear my air pumps in the back. And with
Yeah.
this mic, it didn't get rid of it completely. I know maybe with some editing, I could get rid of that, but it was a big improvement. I mean, at least it wasn't, you didn't hear that constant hum in the
Right.
background.
Well, I have two
But
points regarding that. Yeah, any level of mic that you go, if you're going from nothing to something, it's a huge jump. You can worry about incremental leaps beyond that. Um, but one, it's less about the mic that you're using and more about the technique. It's the
mm,
placement of the mic. Are you speaking close enough to the mic? Is it lined up? You got to think of a mic as like a laser almost, depending on the mics that you're using in the situation. But in most cases, and you're talking about shotgun style mics for cameras, think it's pointing somewhere. You can't just put it in the room and it's going to be fine. It needs to be pointed at where you want the sound to pick up. So in those mics have front and back so they can do both, but it is important where you place the mic. And beyond that, if you're shooting in a fish room, uh, the sound that you get is motivated. You're not necessarily responsible for omitting all of the ambient sound around you. I know you're in a fish room. You sound incredibly clean on this microphone, by the way. I can't hear a thing
no.
going on in that room. But if you're in a fish room, we all know fish tanks can be loud. You might have pumps going, fans going, all of these things. And that you can get away with that. If the sound is motivated in the frame, if I see a forklift operating behind you, I kind of, sensory expect to hear a little bit of that forklift. It's not off-putting, like I don't want to hear a forklift behind you while you're live streaming, but I'm just saying if the sound is motivated in the frame, or the room might not be perfect, that's okay. Nobody has to freak out over that. You can get away with that.
Okay. Well, and it's I think that's also one of those things where the worst thing that can happen is that you're actually trying to look at a what seems to be a very interesting video and you can't hear anything. That's always pretty frustrating because or you have to be on your laptop and crank all the volume up and then the
Right.
commercial hits and you're like, oh, then you got to turn it
Right.
down.
Or the
And,
intro. Yeah.
yeah, and that could all been with buying a little microphone. And that's the thing though. That's like you said, we're at a great time where you don't really have to invest a lot of money to improve
Mhm.
slightly. And and that's what's been happening. I didn't go all in at first because I didn't know if this is something that I was really going to enjoy and do and stuff like that. So I've always been a little bit more cautious with my hobbies. I try them out, see what happens if it's something that I enjoy. And if I find out that one, I am enjoying it, two, it's actually something that, that interests me and stuff like that, then I'll start tinkering around and okay, well, what's the one thing that I can change it to make it a little bit better? And in this case, like you said, one of the things that I knew I needed to improve on because that was the mic I was using for my live streams. Problem is I didn't have the proper stand for it and I couldn't get it close enough, so it was too far away, and it was capturing some of
Okay.
the audio, but not at a good level. And but because I was shopping on Amazon, I guess you could see what I was looking at. That's why my daughter said, "You know what? I'll get him that." And I ended up getting the. I was going to invest in a real cheap arm, and my wife
Mm,
tells me, "What are you
mm-mm,
doing?
mm-mm.
What are you doing?"
No.
She goes, "Get
Yeah.
something that it's gonna last you a long time and you're not having to replace 2 or 3 years down the road." So I said, "All right." And I got the whole setup for this. I looked for
Yeah.
the mic and I saw what was with it and I got that. But so far I'm pretty happy. It seems I've listened to my videos. I do notice the audio being a lot different than it was before. So that makes it well worth the investment
Mhm.
on what I bought. Especially if this is something that I'm finding that I really like and enjoy. And again, like I've always said, this is very selfish of my part because it allows me to connect and meet people like you and all the other guests that I've had on that under normal circumstances it would be very difficult to get to meet because we're not in the same places unless I happen to run into you at an event. And even then, there's always that first awkward introduction, how do I approach somebody kind of situation. And by doing this, it just kind of starts breaking down some of those barriers and then it just becomes very easy. Next time I see you, it's like, hey man, what's up? It's there's that connection there.
Yeah.
And so that's like I said, and I really have had fun with this. I'm learning so much. Um, I get to talk to interesting people. Everybody that has been here, I've learned something that I didn't know before, and that to me is what's also really amazing and cool is because as I am engaging in conversation, I'm learning, and
Mhm.
I'm more of a auditory and visual kind of learner. For me to sit there and look at a book and read, that never really worked out well for me. I can do it, but it takes a lot more effort. I'm more of a hands-on, tell me what it is, let me do it with you. I'll learn it that way. And that's how I pretty much have gone throughout my entire life is just doing
Right.
and been able to do that. But yeah, that's like I said, I appreciate those tips, especially because a lot of us are just beginning. And we're
Mhm.
getting to that point for a lot of us where we're like, okay, I've been doing this for a while now. This is something that I definitely want to stick with. Now, what's the next advancement that I can do
Right.
to improve on it? And I think I even mentioned this in Berto's live stream last night that one of the things that I found really interesting was an interview that they were doing to Mr. Beast. And they were talking about his success and how to become a bigger channel on YouTube. And one of the things that I found really interesting is because he was talking about, don't worry about your first 100 videos. He goes, because nobody's going to watch those.
Right.
He goes, use those as your learning curve. And the biggest takeaway from that was if you're serious about this and this is something you want to do, because I guess the question was the hesitation of people wanting to take that first step because they want to make sure that, oh, they have the good camera, they have the good audio, they have all these things that they want to have in place that's stopping them from wanting to, start. And he was like, don't even worry about that because nobody's going to watch those first 100 videos. That's where
Right.
you learn. And he goes, the one thing you have to do though is start your first video. Your second video, you want to improve on one thing from that last video, whether it's an introduction, whether it's a script, whether it's a outro. You always want to take one thing, improve on that, and you're going to do that for those 100 videos. Once you've done those 100 videos, you're going to start developing the skills to be able to start doing better content. So that to me was very fascinating. Even though, like I said, I just like learning, and I got a good friend of mine here that gives me a hard time all the time because I always say, this is not something that I take very serious, or that I want to, be a huge content creator, because that's not really like at the forethought or the goal of mine. But in a way, he's kind of right, because I do want the quality of what I'm doing to be a little bit better.
Right.
And so these conversations that I have with people like you, with Alex, with Aquafunk, I do listen to what you guys say, and I try to incorporate a little bit better, just because if this is something that I'm going to be serious about, well, why not try to do it better every time? So those are things that, yeah, I am wanting to improve the quality, just for the sake of putting out a good product. So,
Well,
because if,
I want to highlight, that's a very, it's sage advice there, because what you're doing is very responsible. Um, but I also want to illustrate, or underline the fact that if you do that second video, or maybe that third video, you might find out right about that time that you really don't want to do this anyways. So if you had spent thousands of dollars getting yourself set up, and then you found out, wow, editing takes a long time, and thinking about what to make for my next video takes a long time, and then there's uploading and handling the back end of YouTube. It's not everything sounds fun and sexy. And I've had several clients over the last 10 years who are like, I want to start a podcast. I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I want to do this. And I try to curb that enthusiasm and say, let's do one and then see if you come back and do the second. And don't put any pressure onto anything else. Let's just see how you like it, because it might sound fun, and it's not fun. It can be fun, but there's going to be a part where it's work. And if you're not in it to do the work, to do the editing, to set up your mic like you have, and go through the process of learning things like this, you might just decide, you know what, maybe it's just not for me. And that gives you an opportunity without spending a ton of money to realize if that's something you want to do or not. But I think you've done it the smart way.
well, and I'm very frugal too.
That's
you
good.
know,
That's
and
also
and,
smart.
and I had this conversation with a couple of my friends, and I don't know if it's because I'm coming from a background where I didn't grow up necessarily with having a lot of things. So whatever you decided to invest your money, you had to be very smart about it, because there wasn't a whole lot of it to go around. And I think inherently that kind of has stuck with me, because
Good.
fortunately I'm not in that situation, but still I'm not immediately running out there and saying, "Oh, I'm going to invest this much money on something like that." But I think it's just kind of ingrained in me because of the way I was brought up, that, I always kind of like, all right, no, 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 let's try this first. If it's something that is what you want to do, and it's something that you're going to be serious about, then, start buying all the nice toys and all that stuff. But that has
It's a good
always
trait.
been the case with me. No matter what it is that I do, it's always been like that.
That's a good thing.
So going back to the editing and stuff like that, I know you said you were younger, about 13 years old. You got your first camera. Have you kept any of that footage from when you were younger, and you go back and look at it and go, man, I've really evolved? Or you go,
Oh, come
man, you know
on.
what?
Yeah.
That thing that I did right there. I can't believe how advanced it was for my experience level. Do you find any of that in your old footage?
The full spectrum of that. There's stuff that we shot as young teenagers that I think, how in the world did I even conceive of this and make it to where it comes across this way. And it's all trash, but we had some really funny stuff that we did. I was surrounded by some very talented people as well, and we were all like, a couple of us were really big into comedy and stuff like that. So I'm I'm always fond of what we did. Obviously, it's terrible, but anytime you're doing this for such a long period of time, I look back to last week and go, man, the edit I just did this week is so much better than last week's garbage. Or I think to make it more relevant, I think the kind of the tandem that we're doing now with Corey videos in the fish room is we've just got the kinks worked out with when I first came on and I was trying not to make the transition to from an older style to what I was trying to bring to the table at the time. I was trying to not to make it too drastic, and we kind of eased our way in. So I look back at those original co-op videos, and I'm like, man, these are boring. I really had an opportunity to do something better here, and like the latest ones we're working on with these. Shout out to Aqua Pros, where we have these fish room videos dropping. The second one drops tomorrow. But having fun with that and being able to play around with things in that, it's so much more fun now. So I look back at the old stuff from earlier this year and I'm like, garbage. Zenzo's first videos that I was editing for him coming into YouTube, and then I was working with Irene, but there's every client I have, it's like a different uh Bible. When you have TV shows and stuff that are ongoing, you have what's called a show Bible. And these are kind of the rules of, Breaking Bad. Walt would never do this. These kind of things are in your show Bible. And for me, independently in my mind, there are different Bibles for every channel, every client that I work with. So Irene's videos follow these rules, and they're kind of these sounds, and they're kind of this look and what I do. And when I started with Zenzo, I had all the freedom in the world. So I just I kind of threw the kitchen sink at his first handful of videos. And then I realized that's just not my style, and this doesn't feel legit to me. Um, and I told him I think I might back off some of this stuff I'm doing. And he's fine with it because he was game for anything. And did we lose you? I just see your logo. Did he peace out on us? Are we still on the air? Is it the Matt Gray show now? Outside in aquatics. I see my CPD tank makes so many babies when it gets dirty. Do they just stay in there? Because I have 7 CPDs in the tank by themselves with snails. I haven't been able to get them to. He's gone. So, oh man, we lost him. Oh, there we go. There
No,
we
no, no,
go.
no. My dog almost knocked over one of the stands, and I had to let him out.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Sorry about that, but
Yeah, no
I was
problem.
like, nope.
I was talking CPDs, so
Yeah. So I guess when it comes to all that, Eddie. Oh, I just remember what I want to ask. Do you guys do the practice of trying to script stuff, and then when you get to the place, do you start looking at how you're going to film the stuff, or it just all naturally happens as far as camera angles and shots, and are a lot of that stuff predetermined, or is just through the process of recording video? What do you guys normally do when you guys go out and record videos?
okay, so again, it's different for everybody.
Mm,
Um Irene is very structured. She's very smart about her approach to, when we're talking the Girl Talks Fish videos. I mean, she's done this when she hosts Aquarium Co-op videos also. But she, for the most part, for all that I know, I don't know everything behind the
okay.
scenes on what these guys do. Uh, but I know that she does plan it out. She at least has a pretty good outline so that she's not wasting her time in trying to record it. And by the way, she's amazing at takes, and she gives an editor everything an editor needs and just presents it all properly. It's a dream to work with her media. So I know that she kind of it's all premeditated and planned. And
Okay.
while I believe she has a script, she can go off that and try different things. Um, I don't know that outside that short film, Zenzo's ever written a script at all. So I don't know.
Yeah.
He just kind of wings it, and we have fun with it. When we go out for a shoot, there's no script, but him being a pro, it's easy. And with me having experience, we work together easy. We're saying, okay, we're going to do the intro here. So, and if I have a thought like, hey, let's call attention to this or that, we throw it out there. If we want to call attention to a name, we throw that out there. But these guys are pros because I actually shot with Irene also in Colorado. My family went to Wyoming last November, not this past November, November of 22. Our first family vacation in 20 plus years, by the way. Don't ever do that to your family. That'll be a
Mm.
deathbed regret. Uh, but half a day while I was out in Cheyenne, we were able to meet up in Colorado and film at the Fish Crew in Fort Collins. And working with her there, super easy. She didn't come scripted. I mean, she knew what the store was, but we knocked out 2 or 3 videos there, and again, just super easy to work with. So I don't know what Corey does on the back end. I really just think he has an idea of what he's going to talk about, but he picks up the camera and he starts teaching
Well,
and sharing. And
well, I just realized I was making an assumption and not really thinking about it because I'm so used to you doing a lot of the filming for Zenzo that I thought you were involved with filming the stuff for Irene and Corey, but I just
oh
realized
yeah,
you're just editing their material. So they're sending you whatever it is that they recorded and you're putting it all together. And that just
for the
dawned on me right
most
now when you were
part,
talking about it.
there's quite a bit with Zenzo where if I can, I'll try to supplement his B-roll with shooting my own stuff. Unless it's very specific about his fish room. I don't have cichlids like that. Um, and with Irene, obviously we're in different states, so we can't work together a whole
Yeah.
lot. But I've shot my own B-roll for co-op for Irene for Zenzo when necessary. But yeah, we don't get to go out. It's not quite like that. If you don't mind, I want to answer Fathom Aquatics. He had a question about YouTube video pacing, and
Oh, he's
that's
already
like,
asked too many questions. Forget
oh,
Alex.
did he? I just happened to see it. Do you want me to stop?
No,
Does anybody else
I'm
have
just
any
I'm
questions?
just
Oh
I'm
yeah,
just giving Alex
okay,
a hard time
okay.
because he told me, "Hey, dude, is it okay?" I said, "You ask all you want." And he's kind of
I told him
fanboying. When
last.
you gave him a shout out, I know he screamed like a little girl. He's probably in the background.
No,
"Wee!"
dude,
I'm calling
everybody,
Alex out.
nobody.
We might not be
I'm
friends
nobody.
after this, but I'm calling him
I'm
out.
editing in a hole in the wall in California. I'm just me. Um, but I did want to rant for like 5 seconds here on YouTube pacing. I hate frenetic, frantic YouTube videos. Like which is popular. It is popular with a certain section of people. But I do have 2 sons who are now 16 and 22. So they're the generations that have definitely grown up watching YouTube and not TV, and a lot of the times stuff goes I put stuff through them, uh and I'll say, I'll bring my youngest in here, even when he was much younger, and I'll say, watch this, would you watch this, what's wrong with this, what am I doing wrong? And I ask my older son, sometimes they've played goalie, they're like, Dad, no, no, that's not cool, nobody thinks that's cool, and all right, so I check, I know how old I am, I know my place in things, and so I try to be respective of what would be good, but I don't like I have to have a cut every second to keep people's attention. I do not like that approach. There's a place for it. Like when we tease up a video for Aquarium Co-op and we have that little bit of a teaser in the beginning, that's the place for it. I hate editing where they intentionally cut off like the last syllable of a word for a sentence and move on to the next thing. That stuff just irritates me. If somebody is doing a YouTube video, you're presenting a YouTube video, and you can't get 2 sentences in without there being a jump cut, I'm out. I can't watch you as a content creator, and that's a personal thing for me. Probably nobody cares and nobody's really paying attention to that. But I'm like, it's easy to say 2 sentences. You don't need to cut just to cut because maybe there was a half second of silence. You're doing too much. This is all my opinion. This is all subjective. Make all the content you want and do it the way you want, is my real feelings. But for me personally, um, I want a video to tell me a good story. I'm coming to a video for information or an experience. Just deliver on that. Don't worry about my attention span. I'm an adult. I'm an individual. I know what I like, what I don't like. Give me what I came to the show for. And my sons are kind of the same. They're not into the, oh, we're gonna do this now, right now, and all these crazy sounds and everything. Just to, it's too much. It's like I need some quiet. Just give me what I showed up for. In some channels, that is what they show up for, and that's perfectly fine. So just when it comes to pacing, if that's a proper answer to the question, I'm more of I love these Corey in the fish room videos. That makes my life really easy because I'm just chilling with Corey, and there's things I cut out. I try to make sure the viewer is constantly being given something that's relative. Uh, but I don't want to overdo it with sound effects and silly things and make these rapid cuts back and forth because I just think it's distracting to what we're all there for.
Okay. Well, and I wanted to ask you this because I know I've had this problem, and I'm pretty sure anybody else that's kind of ventured into trying to learn a little bit more about, like you were, trying to edit and stuff like that. The problem that I find a lot is with a lot of the content that I find on YouTube. It's for a little bit more advanced people because even some of the terminology, I'm like, okay, what does he mean by that? Do
Mm.
you know of any like very basic, very um entry level content creators out there that do these tutorials where somebody like myself that's not, you know, really involved or has that experience with editing that you could recommend as off the top of your head that you might know that say, oh yeah, so and so person does a pretty good job of explaining on plain English kind of stuff.
Well, the first two channels I always point people to when they're interested in learning more about how to do the things is one, Caleb Pike, who he's DSLR video shooter. He's unfortunately he started his channel back when people still use DSLRs, and now we're pretty much all using mirrorless cameras. So there's some nerdy talk, but his channel is DSLR video shooter. His name is Caleb Pike. When it comes to just making a nice video, he does it exceptionally well. The lighting's
Mm.
good, the sound is good, his eye is great. He came from being a videographer, a cinematographer, and he teaches about. Well, he'll do camera reviews from time to time, things like that. But he's really big into like DIY, um, 3D printing stuff for the cameras and building out rigs, things like that. And he just always has great value tips. He's very budget conscious, but the way he presents his channel is kind of ideal for me. And he gives really practical, good information for the budget minded person. Now, a lot of the stuff he's going to talk about is going to be the upper, cameras of, it's a lot of money, but the Sony cameras that I use that are $35 to $4,000, or you can go up to 6,000, you can go up beyond that. But those are not generally considered budget friendly cameras. Uh, but he's a good one. So Caleb Pike and Curtis Judd on YouTube is somebody. If I really need to tell somebody, you got to go to this person and find out about audio. I tell him to go listen to Curtis Judd. I think he has two channels: Curtis Judd Audio. But he does mic reviews, recorder reviews. He teaches about technique, and in both of these gentlemen, Curtis and Caleb, have helped me in the past, like personally, and I trust they have kind of shaped me into where I am. They've each played big roles in that. There's actually if you go to the NDI Film Awards channel that we had talked about earlier, I have an interview with Caleb that I did on that channel. And Curtis tried to come to the rescue with me on a particular scene, and Madison Baker was here. That was just, if you capture bad audio, you capture bad audio, folks. There's nothing you can do about that. But those two gentlemen, and then what was this? I was going to say another thing. Gosh dang it. Really wanted to help out there. That editing podcast, which
Okay.
is Hayden Hillier Smith. He was an editor for Logan Paul. It's his style, his specific style is not something that I do. It's not my style, but he has this podcast, and it's on YouTube. That editing podcast, uh, where they talk about current trends in editing and experiences in editing and things like that. There's great information there, and it really I listen to them because we're working in the same game, and there's nobody else really in my life who understands what I do on a daily basis. Oh, just take some time off. It's not how it goes. So, but that editing podcast, Caleb Smith and Curtis Judd are great resources to go if you're interested in just kind of learning more about the terminology or upping your game. Period.
Okay. Well, man, I want to say, it's been great to have you on. Um, I I was super excited when
Careful.
I know. I tend to move my hands a lot. I talk a lot. I have to sit on my hands to avoid me gesturing the entire time because I, I, I talk with my hands. That's just,
Right.
that's
That's
who I
good.
am. But I've been trying to learn not to do that. I guess some people find it distracting. I just think it enhances the story. But
I will give you another tip. I don't find that distracting, but there are channels and podcasts out there that have their microphones like I do right now, sitting on a small table, because I never have a microphone for my office. I don't generally do this, but they'll have a setup like this where the mic's sitting on the table, and as they talk, they tap the table quite a bit, even just little taps here and there where they don't realize it. If you're in that situation, please don't put your mic on the table. Or if you have to put your mic on the table, try not to hit the table. If you are somebody who hits the mic on the table and you have to put your mic on the table, try to put a blanket down on the table underneath the mic so that you're at least dampening some of that contact. Because you can't, it's hard to tell in person, but when you tap a table and it travels up through that stand and through the mic, that can be picked up by someone who's a baby like me and I'm trying to experience audio. If there's that type of tapping, I can't. I got to check out. So, but yeah, so I don't know. Hot tip there.
well, I appreciate that because I've it's amazing how much when you have the mic on the table, how much it'll pick up a lot of those sounds. Um, and it's just I've experienced I not experienced, but I've seen it in some videos and stuff like that. Is like and it's not really you could tell they didn't hit it very hard, but it's for some
Mhm.
reason it just is the mic picks it up a lot
Not
stronger than
something
you would
anybody
ever.
would think about. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just you don't know, and you have a great setup there. Love the arm. I'm glad you didn't go with a cheap arm. I would tell anybody cheap mic, expensive arm, or not expensive, but don't go for the cheapest arm because the arm will change your life. That's what will make your life easy.
yeah. I was looking at the ones that look like the for the lamps, like the Pixar lamp.
Right.
The that's exactly what I was looking
Gonna
at because it was
gonna
like
fall.
$20. And my
Yeah.
wife
No,
goes, "What are you
don't
doing?"
cry
And
once,
and,
as we
and
said.
she talked me out of it. And she goes, "Because I don't think that's going to hold the mic." That's what she told me, and I was like, "I didn't think about that. I didn't think about the weight of the mic
Mhm.
being an issue." And I'm glad I didn't because it probably would have been a problem. It would have held up for a while, but then eventually, because they didn't have any way to adjust anything on it.
Yeah.
Once she told me that, I started kind of looking a little. I tend to do that. I tend to go to YouTube to go learn
Right.
stuff. That's where I
Me
learned
too.
everything that I've learned is watching somebody else talk about their experience.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, I already got this brand. Just get the one that's designed for the microphone and forget about it. So that's what I ended up doing. But
Good
but
move.
yeah, I did look into it, and that was one of the comments. Is the guy was talking about the ones that look like for the lamps. He goes, they'll hold, but you get one of these mics, and you'll see it creeping down eventually because the little springs will wear out, and there's no way
Yeah.
to adjust them, create tension or anything like that. So my video, oh, okay. My wife's telling me my video is looking real blurry. Um,
Oh,
that's probably because she's a. Well,
looks good to me. Might be
yeah,
buffering in the house.
I've had that happen too, where I'm looking at it here, but when I go, it happens to me a lot when I do a lot of the live streams from the fish stores. For
Mhm.
some reason, when I'm looking at it and I'm actually doing the live, it's good. But once it gets sent down to my channel, I go back and watch it and I go, "Whoa, man, that was horrible." But nobody commented on it, so I thought, okay, it's clear here. So it might be our signal, we're just sucking up too much of the bandwidth.
Well, if you're
And
doing, yes, that locally there, yes.
yeah,
If you're in a store live streaming and then it ends up crappy on the channel, you got to account for the fact that YouTube compresses things like crazy.
no,
So it might have only taken. I mean, this gets into a lot of boring tech talk, but that could be more of a YouTube problem. It could be, it's going to look good on your phone, but what quality are you also streaming? Are you streaming in 4K and it's down resing it to 720? Are
mm,
you is it buffering you as you're streaming due to the bandwidth? I mean, there's so many things there. It's dangerous
yeah,
out there shooting.
yeah, no. And I found that the best thing I can do is just record the content. I was avoiding doing that because look, one of the things that I've learned, and I ended up getting like what is it, a solid state um, drive or something like
Mhm.
that, where I was storing everything on my phone, and eventually what happens is you run
Oh yeah.
out of space. And I wasn't getting rid of any of that footage because I'm always thinking, oh, I can go back and probably use something for a B-roll. That's me thinking, but in reality, that never really happens. But I said, you know what? I got myself a little 1 terabyte, I think, one of those solid state drives, and I've been downloading all that stuff down to that, and it frees up the memory on my phone. So now if I
Right.
go to the store, I can actually shoot the footage instead of doing the cop out and doing the live stream because I don't have to worry about storage.
Right.
But the quality of the video is significantly different if I
Right.
record it and then edit it versus doing the live stream. So,
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
taking YouTube out of the mix there.
yeah,
And
they don't
getting it
like
on
that, I
your
guess.
end. Right.
Yeah, but no, like I said, but I know you're extremely busy. I greatly appreciate you coming on. I was thrilled when you said yes. I was like, whoa,
I'm incredibly
because
humbled.
because
Like I told you, I don't think anybody knows who I am anyway. So,
uh, I'm going to leave that alone. I don't want to go there. Uh, but but the thing was, I've always been wanting to talk. Every time, like when I had Alex on, I know I asked him about a lot of questions about editing stuff like that because I find it interesting. I hate it. I don't like doing it, but I think a lot of it is because I don't know how to do it. And when you don't, I'm the type of person that if I get frustrated and I can't figure it out, I don't. I internally say I don't like this. When in really it just boils down to a lack of knowledge. Because once you understand what you're trying to do and how you're doing it, then it changes your perspective. And I know myself, and I know that's immediately my reaction is, oh, I don't like this because, and it's really more, I don't understand this, and I don't have the patience to sit down and try to figure out what it is that I don't understand. So,
right.
and so it's real easy for me to say, oh, I just don't like doing this, but that's
There's
not
always
really
a
the
big
case.
learning
It's
curve. Yeah.
yeah, it's
A
just
lot of people
my
share that
cop
with
out.
you. Well, no,
My cop out.
it, that's a big learning curve, and it can get frustrating. And when you're not, when you can't just do the thing you want to do really fast, and you're like, well, what button does that, or where do I go to get that? Those are hard. You're interrupting the creative process. And again, if you're not mentally ill enough to sit there and work through it for hours and hours and hours, you have something better to do with your life. That could be discouraging.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is that I know I had reached out to you, and I was like, hey, Matt, what kind of editing software do you think is? And you kind of politely walked me off the ledge, kind of saying like, dude, you're not even using your current app to the full potential, and you're asking me for a better recommendation. And I was able to pick up on that. I go, well, yeah, really, I don't even use 3/4 of what this app is offering me, and yet here I'm asking for a bigger, better when I don't even know how to use the basic one. So I said, you
Well,
know what, I get it. Yeah, I need to
where
focus on
I'm
what I
really
have and
coming
improve.
from that, though, what I really mean is that to learn to switch gears from what you're comfortable, for the most part,
Yeah,
comfortable with now and go to something else, that you're reintroducing a new learning curve. And I, as a fan, would rather you create content than create any sort of quote unquote better content on some other software, that's negligible and subjective, and they pretty much all do the same thing anyways. The barrier to creating should be as easy as possible, especially with somebody who's sort of just starting out. You don't want them to get discouraged by the technical side of it. So I just try to tell everybody, not just you, but I try to tell everybody, find the easiest thing, or if you're already using that, use that. Unless there's a problem you're coming across that you need to solve, there's no reason to jump ship.
Yeah, and like I said, now that I've done that, I go back and I go, okay, so what does this button do? Because there's so many buttons in there, it could be a little bit intimidating. And I started watching. I had never. This is so ridiculous. Oops, my alarms. It was so ridiculous that I haven't even bothered to see if YouTube had tutorials on the app that I'm using. And after we got off the phone, I typed it in, and sure enough, there's a whole library of all these tutorials that show you. The one that I found interesting is one how to do cinematic editing, and filming, and all these little things that were on there. And it's really not that difficult if you know how to use the tools that you're given.
Right.
I'm over here, I was basically going from crawling to trying to run a sprint where I need to figure out how to walk before I can
Yeah.
even run. So
Yeah.
that's sorry.
Cinematic can be a trigger world in our circles because it's such a buzzword used around YouTube. Cinematic is really just about proper lighting and maybe the right lens choice, maybe some blocking. But yeah, when I think, at my age now, doing what I do now, at my age, the term cinematic to me means lighting, because
Mm,
that is such it was the last stop for me. It really still is, because I don't find it interesting, but I understand the power that it has. It's just not. I want to shoot and get the good audio and go. So, but lighting is the most, I would say, audio and lighting. But if you're talking visuals, lighting is the most important thing. If you want anything cinematic, it's about the lighting, and it's not turning on lights so everything's bright and you could see everything. There's mood to lighting and lighting for
mm.
specific things, and it's a whole deal. But to me, that's what cinematic means.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, this is all a new world to me, and I'm trying to like it. But
Yeah, good.
again, the whole thing is the my personal reason for not liking it is because I didn't understand it.
Right.
The more it's real interesting. The more you start watching some of these videos, the more you go, oh, okay, well, it's not that difficult. It's just you just didn't know that little trick to be able to change your perspective on what you were doing. The other thing before we go off, one of the things that I found really interesting because I started down that rabbit hole, I start getting recommendations for that. And I don't know this gentleman's name, but I know he does a lot of videos similar to this. Um, but he was talking about his method, what he does before he films, whether it's, I think he was talking about like documentaries or uh, full feature films. He goes, the number one thing you always want to have is an ending. He
Hmm.
goes, the ending is the most important thing because the problem that a lot of people that are aspiring to be directors and stuff like that, they can develop a story, but they never know how to end it. He goes, if you know how you want to end, it's a lot easier to work back from the ending
Absolutely.
because it gets you because you already know how you're going to end it. And that to
Right.
me was pretty fascinating because I had never even thought about anything like that. And so, hopefully now that I have these little nuggets of knowledge, now it's my turn to try to incorporate some of that stuff to what
Yeah.
I'm doing and hopefully improve and see some gradual improvements. But um, you know, it, once you if making better content is something you really want to do, I guess there's the resources out there. That's basically the whole point of this, and you
Absolutely.
just got to go look for it. And it, but again,
Yeah.
Matt, I know you're extremely busy. I greatly appreciate you coming on. Hopefully,
Oh,
this wasn't a waste of your time. I hope you had a good time. Um,
no, this is great. This is the highlight of my day, man. I'm honored that you reached out to me. I've been enjoying your live streams and your guests. And I told you earlier before we went on, that's kind of what helps keep me going is those in the hobby who are on YouTube who do live streams. A lot of these content creators are people I listen to while I'm working, and it just keeps the conversation going in my head. I get to learn because I don't, I have fish tanks and everything, but I don't have the expansive knowledge that so many veterans have. So I get to learn, I get to listen to people, and that's I work better that way. So if I'm not listening to FishTube, I probably have, I'm probably marathoning Cheers for the thousandth time in my life. There's something going on that is feeding my creativity, and fish tubers are doing a lot of that, and you particularly are also helping me with that greatly, especially with the new mic.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is that I always find I find people interesting because we all have experiences that we've gone through it, and I know, like I've always said, the aquariums just happens to be that connection, that commonality that we have. But I'm really interested in knowing who the person is, and that's why
Right.
I'm doing this. A lot of these people, we've exchanged messages, we've talked like that, but what I'm really looking forward to is getting to know the person besides the hobby. And because there's always so many things that get unpackaged and stuff that you didn't even know that person had, experiences that they've had. um you know it's just to me it's just very interesting, so hopefully it continues to go. I was telling my wife that I'm really happy and blessed that almost everybody that I've reached out to has said yes. They said, yeah, I'll do it. A couple of people that don't even know me from anybody, that they
Right.
were like, yeah, I'll take a risk. I'll be there. Mike being one of them. Michael's Fish Room. We I had commented on his stuff like that, but he really didn't know who I was, and he was quite frank, honest when he came on. He goes, I didn't know who you were, but somebody vouched for you, so they said, yeah, he's all right. And then I started seeing some of your stuff and I said, sure.
Hmm.
But he had given me the yes even before that. So,
That's
um,
cool.
which is to me, that's kind of exciting because then it kind of makes me feel that maybe I am onto something and it motivates me. And
I'm gonna not to not to throw sunshine and rainbows your way, but you're kind of a natural at this. I've been around enough to where I've seen a lot of people doing these types of things. You do an excellent job as a host, and you care as a host. And I think anybody should jump at the chance to hop on and just have a conversation with you, because I think you're a real cool dude. I think you're doing a great job, and this has just been a pleasant experience for me. So I appreciate you even having an interest in listening to me ramble.
well, thank you, and I appreciate that because that really fuels me and it gives me, more drive to continue to do what I'm doing. So, um, hopefully, everybody that joined us today, hopefully, you guys were able to learn something today. I know I did. I walked away with a lot more information that I previously had. We got to know a little bit about the thought process when you want to do a full feature film, like movie and stuff like that, and all the things that go on with that. I thought that to me was very fascinating. Even though I'm not going to go out and film a movie, but I watch movies. I enjoy
Yeah.
movies.
Oh yeah.
It's one of my favorite things to do, and it is one of those things that my wife and I will watch movies. I'd rather go to the movie theater and watch a movie with my wife than sit in the couch because um, one of the things she's even worse than me when it comes to the attention span because she'll be
Oh
watching
yeah.
the movie, but she has to be doing something else. And then I'm really focused in the movie because I'm trying to follow the story. And then she'll come back and go, what happened? Or what did she say? I was like, oh, now you're distracting me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love her to
Absolutely.
death, but that's the one thing that is like, oh man, I don't want to watch it. If it's a movie that I really want to watch, I'll sit there and watch it with her, but I got to go back and watch it. And I got to
Yeah.
watch it by myself because I want to make sure that I get the full story, or or or
Absolutely.
or I know ahead of time that it's something that she's sort of interested, but I'm really interested. I'll go watch it, and then I'll tell her, "Hey, let's watch the movie," because by that point, I've I've already kind of experienced it,
Codes.
and now I can answer all her questions and not worry
That's
about
funny.
missing the dialogue. If it's an action movie, those are easy because it's all just action sequences. But when
Right.
it's a storytelling movie, I
Right.
get enthralled and I'm, focused and listening and trying to follow and, but it's just one
Yeah.
of those
Absolutely. I
couple
hear you,
quirks that
brother.
we
I
have.
hear you.
Well, sir, thank you so much. And everybody in the
Thank
chat,
you.
thank you for coming out tonight. For those of you that came in after we had started, I want to say thank you very much. I did see you here, but um, sometimes it's just very hard acknowledge that you're here. I do see you, but I don't want to interrupt the conversation. And then I personally get distracted very easily and I lose. I have to be very focused on what I'm doing because my attention span is horrible. But other than
I'm
that,
sorry
thank you guys.
if I missed anything in the chat. I'm really sorry. Anybody, feel free to, if you happen to have a question for me, at Mentality Films on Instagram, feel free to DM me and I'll try to answer there, I guess.
So is that the best way to get a hold of you if somebody wants to get a hold of you is on Instagram?
The best way to get a hold of me is not to. But
Okay.
but beyond that, that's just me being an introvert. Yeah,
Okay.
Instagram is probably just the easiest way. Yeah.
All
No
right. Well,
offense.
I want
All right.
to thank everybody, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
All right. Bye.